Hello, everybody, and welcome back once again to Lit Up with Annie. In this session today, we are going to talk about an Indian writer, which is Jayanta Mahapatra, and we're going to talk about his poem, a very, very famous and a very dark poem of Jayanta Mahapatra, which is Hunger. Um, जब आप पढ़ोगे इस पोम को, you will feel that darkness, and literally you'll have goosebumps when you read the poem. It is so real and so dark at the same time. uh, Let me just talk a little bit about Jayanta Mahapatra. उड़ीसा इंडिया में पैदा हुए थे 1928 में, एंड ही पास्ड अवे रिसेंटली 2023 में. एंड he wrote in English. He also translated into Odia certain things. Apart from being a writer, he was a physicist also. He was a professor, he was a poet, he was a translator, an editor. And he was born into a Christian family of Odia descent. इनका जो क्रिश्चियन आइडेंटिटी है और जो उड़िया हेरिटेज है, दोनों ही चीज़ों ने शेप किया इनके कॉम्प्लेक्स सेंस को ऑफ बिलोंगिंग एंड ऑल्सो ऑफ एस्ट्रेंजमेंट. सो ही वॉज एजुकेटेड इन कटक एंड पटना, और इन्होंने एमएससी किया फिजिक्स में पटना यूनिवर्सिटी से, और फिर अपना प्रोफेशनल लाइफ शुरू किया एज अ लेक्चरर इन फिजिक्स. बहुत सारे अलग अलग कॉलेजेस में पढ़ाया उड़ीसा में, इंक्लूडिंग राविनशॉ कॉलेज इन Katak, and eventually he retired from there. And then he started writing poetry relatively, late in his life. I think late 30s, probably around 1960s mein. And he's considered one of the three major Indian English poets of the modern period, along with A.K. Ramanujan and R. Parthasarathi. साथ में जयंता महापात्र. तो ये तीन मेजर इंडियन इंग्लिश पोएट्स हैं मॉडर्न एज के. He was also the first Indian poet to win the Sahitya Academy Award for English poetry. ठीक है, तो पहले थे जिनको पोइट्री के लिए मिला. और बहुत सारे अलग अलग चीज़ों पे ये फोकस करते हैं, जैसे कि religious focus is also there in his poems. उड़ीसा के टेम्पल, स्पेशली पूरी रिचुअल्स, मिथ्स, पावर्टी पे इनका ध्यान जाता है, बैकड्रॉप में चलता है. he is usually very meditative in his tone, very elegiac, and the imagery is generally rooted in Indian topography, the temples, monsoon, rivers, village life, rituals, all of these things. ठीक है. The writing style, if we speak about the writing style, then again he has used landscape as a metaphor for the mind. There is a fusion of realism and mysticism in his works, and there is a deeply interior tone that we find. कभी guilt को explore करते हुए, कभी memory को, कभी mortality को explore करते हुए. ठीक है, तो ये कुछ चीज़ें हैं इनका. Quickly, you have to remember certain things like his birth date, 1928. He was a physicist turned into poet. He was the first Indian English poet to receive the Sahitya Academy Award for relationship. जो इनका कलेक्शन था 1981 में इनको मिला. And one more thing is that he founded and he edited the journal Chandrabhaga. Please remember that as well. Another very particular thing is that he returned the Padma Shri. 2015 में इनको दिया गया था, and he returned it. And his major poems, he's known for poems like Hunger, Dawn at Puri, Relationship, Grandfather. ये इनकी कुछ major poems हैं. ठीक है. Let me take you to Hunger now. Hunger. टाइटल ना अपने आप में एक डबल मीनिंग दिखाता है. हंगर एक तो लिटरल हंगर जो भूख हमें लगती है, और दूसरा है सेक्सुअल हंगर. तो ये दो हंगर टाइप्स की हंगर की इन्होंने बात की है यहाँ पे. द फिजिकल हंगर ऑफ द पुअर फिशरमैन एंड हिज डॉटर, एंड द सेक्सुअल हंगर एंड मॉरल हंगर ऑफ द नरेटर, एक्सपोजिंग द कोलैप्स ऑफ ह्यूमन वैल्यूज इन द वर्ल्ड ऑफ डेप्रिवेशन. तो सबसे पहले कोई एनालिसिस नहीं, कुछ नहीं, पहले हम सीधा पोम पे चलते हैं. ठीक है. It was hard to believe. The flesh was heavy on my back. The fisherman said, "Will you have her?" carelessly, trailing his nets and his nerves, as though his words sanctified the purpose with which he faced himself. I saw his white bone thrash his eyes. The first stanza, we can imagine that there's this sea ka landscape hai, And we have the narrator who says that it was hard to believe the flesh was heavy on my back. Now, what kind of flesh is he talking about? Maybe just the burden of life, or maybe he was looking for some kind of sexual satisfaction. So he says it was hard to believe that the flesh was heavy on my back. And he had come here and he met this fisherman, and the fisherman said to him, "Will you have her?" So we don't know who the fisherman is talking about, but वो carelessly बहुत बोलते हैं कि जैसे कि वो बिजनेस डील हो रही हो कोई, कि क्या तुम्हें वो लड़की चाहिए, डू यू वांट हर, विल यू हैव हर. एंड कैजुअली ही इज ट्रेलिंग हिज नेट्स, अपना वो काम भी कर रहे हैं साथ में, अपने नेट्स डाल रहे हैं. ही इज अ फिशरमैन, ही इज कैचिंग फिशेस, एज दो हिज वर्ड्स सैंक्टिफाइड द पर्पस विद व्हिच ही फेस्ड हिमसेल्फ. जैसे जो उसके वो वर्ड्स थे, वो इस पर्पस को, सेलिंग अ गर्ल, वो फुलफिल कर रहे थे. बिकॉज मे बी the fisherman does represent poverty. How much will a fisherman earn? And we'll see in the moving stanzas that he doesn't really catch anything. He goes empty handed. And he says, "I saw his white bone thrash his eyes." White bone may represent, malnourishment. Maybe he's too thin, and the white bone is showing. And I saw his white bone thrash his eyes. I followed him across the sprawling sands. So now, maybe they were in a boat, or maybe they were just sitting side mein, and now they're moving back. So he says, "I followed him across the sprawling sands." Generally, Odisha has been the setting of his works, and this is also set there. So the kind of landscape has also been talked about. Sprawling sands, पूरा वो रेत रेत को क्रॉस करते हुए, he followed him. My mind thumping in the flesh sling. जैसे दिल धड़कता है, यहाँ पे इसका माइंड धड़क रहा है. माइंड थम्पिंग, थम्पिंग इज दैट साउंड, धक 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 धक. तो my mind thumping in the flesh's sling. Hope lay perhaps in burning the house I lived in. Now we can see that the narrator also has a kind of guilt, a kind of shame in his heart, in his mind, that he wants to go because he is sexually hungry. But then there is a guilt also that he doesn't know this girl, who this girl is, and he's just going there. So my mind thumping in the flesh's sling. Hope lay perhaps in burning the house I lived in. Hope बस यही बची है कि जला दूं मैं अपना घर जहां मैं रह रहा हूं. इट्स अ सेंस ऑफ प्यूरिफाइंग समथिंग, कि मेरा दिल शायद मैला हो गया है इतना कि मैं जा रहा हूं इस तरह का काम करने. अब यही बचा है कि बस जल जाए वो चीज, जला के ही वो होप वहीं से आ सकती है, अदरवाइज देयर इज नो होप. Silence gripped my sleeves. His body clawed at the froth. His old nets had only dragged up from the seas. So there was only silence. And he says, "Silence gripped my sleeves." I was completely numb. And then it shifts. His body, fisherman's, his body clawed at the froth. His old nets had only dragged up from the seas. So he did not catch anything. कोई fish नहीं आया, कुछ नहीं आया. His body clawed at the froth जो वहाँ पे होता है. And in the flickering dark, his lean-to opened like a wound. वो वहां पहुंच गए. So he was following the fisherman. Lean-to is a small hut. तो उसके हट पे ये लोग पहुंच जाते हैं. Oh, sorry. ठीक है. And he says, it's such a powerful imagery. I love this imagery that Mahapatra has created. In the flickering dark, dark हो गया था बाहर. His lean-to opened. उसका हट खुला like a wound opens. क्योंकि उसके घर में वो लड़की है जिसको वो बेच रहा है, फिशरमैन. एंड दिस हट ओपन, जैसे कि एक घाव खुल जाता है, लाइक अ वुंड ओपन्स. द विंड वाज आई. अपने आप को इन्होंने जो नरेटर है वो विंड के साथ अपने आप को कंपेयर कर रहा है. द विंड वाज आई एंड द डेज एंड नाइट्स बिफोर. पाम फ्रॉन्ड्स स्क्रैच्ड माय स्किन. पाम ट्री होता है, जनरली होता है, बड़ी आसानी से उग जाता है. वो लंबे लंबे पत्ते होते हैं उसके, ऐसे ऐसे लंबा सा प्लांट होता है. पाम फ्रॉन्ड्स स्क्रैच्ड माय स्किन. जो ब्रांचेस थे पाम, उस plant ke, it scratched my skin as if, the nature is trying to stop him, or he's getting these signals to not go. But inside the shack, that small jhompadi type, inside the shack, an oil lamp slayed the hours bunched to those walls. So the entire scene is of poverty here. शैक में रह रहे हैं पहले तो, झुग्गी झोंपड़ी होती है वहां वो घुस रहा है, एक ऑयल लैम्प चल रहा है, एंड इट्स प्लेड द आवर्स bunched to those walls, hours bunched to the walls. एक another symbolic सा इमेजरी क्रिएट करता है, जैसे कि जो टाइम हो वो उस वॉल पे रुक गया हो. All the hours together, bunched is together on those walls. Over and over, sticky soot crossed the space of my mind. And soot is जो धुआं, काला सा धुआं निकलता है, the sticky soot. So ये कह रहा है, the narrator says that over and over, this sticky soot crossed the space of my mind. मेरे दिमाग में चढ़ रहा है, that space of mind, it is crossing it time and again. Another very symbolically you can interpret this in your own way. So this is the entire description, this stanza of the house that he enters. I heard him say, and finally he reveals, my daughter. She's just turned 15. अपनी बेटी को बेच रहा था वहां पे, and she's only 15 years old. And he says, feel her. I'll be back soon. Your bus leaves at 9. So complete business deal is happening. You have time until 9 o'clock. I'll just come back. I'll just go out. You do what you have to do. And the narrator says, the sky fell on me, and a father's exhausted wile. Wile is cunning, or a way to manipulate with your words. तो जो उसने बोला फिशरमैन ने, उस सुन के द स्काई फेल ऑन मी, मेरे तो डूब गया उस चीज के अंदर. और एक फादर इस तरह की बात कर रहा है. And then he goes on to describe the girl, long and lean. Her ears were cold as rubber. So she was a long girl, very thin, again malnourished maybe. Her ears were cold as rubber, because she's living in that kind of a world. Ek to she's poor and she has to sell her body. She's only 15. She opened her wormy legs wide. So it was so casual for her. She just sat down and she opened her legs, wormy legs. Wormy may represent decay, disease, the kind of poverty that she was living in. I felt the hunger there, the sexual hunger. So the narrator felt it there. The other one, the fish slithering, turning inside. And then the other kind of hunger, that this girl has to do this to satisfy the hunger of the stomach. So that is the other kind of a hunger. The fish slithering, turning inside. That's hunger. Just quickly, let's go through it again. It was hard to believe the flesh was heavy on my back. The fisherman said, will you have her? Carelessly, trailing his nets and his nerves as though his words sanctified the purpose, justified the purpose, that with which he faced himself. I saw his white bone thrash his eyes. Image of starvation, as I told you. I followed him across the sprawling sands, the desolate coastal landscape of Odisha. That is Mahapatra's home region. My mind thumping in the flesh's sling. The speaker's mind and body are in conflict. There is a desire and then there's a guilt that coexist. Hope lay perhaps in burning the house I lived in. It's a metaphor that suggests self-destruction or purification. Only by destroying my own moral self can he confront this inhuman world that we are living in. Silence gripped my sleeves, his body clawed at the froth his old nets had only dragged up from the seas. In the flickering dark, his lean-to opened like a wound. The wind was I, and the days and night before. So the speaker identifies with the wind, which is restless, empty. या किसी के घर में वो तूफान भी तो लेके आ रहा है ना उस बच्ची के लिए. So he feels himself merged with that bleak passing time, suggesting an existential void. Palm fronds scratched my skin. It mirrors the harshness of life, nature. Um, Inside the shack, an oil lamp splayed the hours bunched to those walls. Timeless misery of, of the hut. The hours bunched show the stagnation of life in poverty. Time change ही नहीं होता. Over and over, the sticky suit crossed the space of my mind. So his thoughts are darkened, just like the suit, by what he is about to do. I heard him say, "My daughter, she's just turned 15. Feel her, I'll be back soon. Your bus leaves at 9." The sky fell on me and her father's exhausted while. Long and lean, her ears were cold as rubber. Cold as rubber, lifelessness. Mechanical. She opened her wormy legs wide. I felt the hunger there. The other one, the fish slithering, turning inside. So the other hunger refers to, one is the sexual hunger and the other is the literal hunger, or perhaps the animal hunger shared by all humans. Fish slithering connects back to the fisherman's world, suggesting that lust and hunger are intertwined in this degraded human condition. I hope you understood the poem. It is, isn't it dark? And we can talk about it. It's not about eroticism, but it is about human degradation under poverty, कि कितना हद तक चल जा सकता है इंसान. It exposes how hunger destroys the moral boundaries, forcing a father to sell his daughter and reducing a man to complicity in that act. ठीक है? That's it. That's about hunger. If you have any other kind of interpretation for any line, please feel free to write it in the comments. If you wish to join the full course, please get in touch with me. If you wish to join the MCQs batch, please again get in touch with me. Thank you. See you in the next one. Please like, share, subscribe, share it with others as well.